Hello, I am Laurie Moldauer. I'm the owner of a culinary school in Utah called Park City Culinary Institute. And I'm here with my best friend, Chef Brody Volger. And Chef Brody is going to be making some dishes that he grew up with in Austria. And he's going to show you some tricks so that you can make them at home. So Chef, what are we making today?
So today we'll be making a potato leek soup as a starter. And then as a second course, we'll be making a ribeye with an onion sauce and spätzle or Austrian pasta. And as a dessert, we'll make a traditional apple strudel.
Love apple strudel. This is so exciting. We're going to be really learning some great techniques, and these are professional techniques you're going to be learning how to make your dishes at home with that, you know, the average home cook may not know how to use. So let's get started. What's the first thing we need to do?
So I will prep the leeks and the potatoes. So I will split the leeks, cleaned off the leeks a little bit to take the I split the leeks down the middle, and then I slice the leeks into small strips.
Now, I don't know how many of you at home have cooked with leeks before, but this is something different, right? This isn't your traditional onion. This is a different version of an onion. What exactly is the leek?
Well, a leek is it's actually in the onion family, but it grows everywhere on the sidewalk, everywhere in Europe. It's a very easy growing, just like onions would actually be. So if you open up the leeks, you see there's a lot of times, these seem to be pretty clean. A lot of times when you're at home, there's probably sand in there. So I like to wash them before I use them. As you can tell, there's a few pieces of sand in there. Yeah. And we can just wash those out. I use a little strainer.
I want to go to Europe where there are leeks growing on the sidewalk. This is awesome.
So there is this. We just wash those off. I'll let them sit to dry off a little bit.
And so why would you use a leek instead of an onion when you're cooking?
Well, it just gives you a lot different texture, and the onion take a lot longer to cook.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, great. Well, we like things that are fast, right? I mean, not.
So then we just prep the potatoes.
Now that's fast. If I could peel a potato that fast, I would be done cooking in minutes at home. But Brody's been cooking for over 50 years.
I've been doing this for over 50 years. I finally decided work was too hard for me, and I retired, and I just do this as a hobby now.
So Brody loves entertaining, and so we're going to talk a lot about tricks that a professional chef uses when they entertain at home. And these are such great tips, because when you're cooking at home, the easier you make it on yourself, the more time you get to spend with your friends and with your family. And so that's what we're going to look for, is how do we make it easier to cook at home so that you can enjoy your time with your friends and family? Because that's why you're doing it in the first place, so it's important.
So then I'll just dice the potatoes fairly small so that they cook quicker. The bigger the potatoes are, the less, you know, the more time they take to cook. So I cut them in half. So I cut them in half and then cut them in half again. And always lay the potato down flat so that it doesn't jump out of your fingers or out of your hands, and just like dice your.
Oh, that's a great trick. Everything's always rolling around.
So yeah, so you lay them down and you cut it in half again, and there you go.
That's how you're moving so fast. I love the idea of making a soup when you entertain. That's such a great way to have something ready that's delicious. And summer it's cold and in the winter it's warm.
So the same
and you
soup.
can welcome your guests to something that's ready-made without spending time with your guests at your house cooking.
So there you go. The same soup you can make cold. You can make a vichyssoise kind of like this. So you can just serve that cold, add a little more cream to it, maybe a little more, you know, some herbs to it, what you like, and then you have like, you know, almost like a vichyssoise, you know, basically. So you have a potato leek soup, cold soup. So that works very well. So
vichyssoise, that's the French version of what you're making. It's a little bit different, right? So they serve it cold in France, but you're doing the Austrian version, and your version's actually a hot soup.
Well, this is in the summer. This we make for the winter time, and we make a cold soup in the summertime.
So you make the same soup, hot or cold, depending on the season.
Correct. Yes. You know. So we heat up the stove. We heat up the pot. We add some butter. You can use oil if you like. You can avocado oil is probably the best way to do it if you don't want to use butter. I like butter. I like to cook with clarified butter. I use just regular butter because most people don't have really clarified butter at home. So I just cut up the butter a little bit.
So let's talk about that. If any of you have friends who are chefs, or if you watch the Food Network a lot, you probably have heard of clarified butter. What?
Or we also call it ghee.
Ghee. So in India they call it ghee, and then clarified butter is what we would call it in the United States.
Yes.
It's the same
Yep,
thing?
Same thing.
And what exactly is it? Why is it so important to clarify your butter? I know you want to clarify your skin, but why would you want to clarify your butter?
So clarifying butter means you get all the impurity out of the butter. Basically, that's what it is. So now, if you see the cooking process here, butter has quite a bit of water in it, and so when you cook,
Yeah, so let's show them what you're talking about.
so when you cook and you have a shallow pan, it splatters all over your stove. Now with clarified butter, it doesn't splatter over because you have no water in it.
And so clarifying the butter takes out the impurities and removes the
Removes
water.
all the water.
So
Yeah.
then you're just left with fat,
So basically, it's butter fat.
which is the yummy part. That's why you
Right.
want the butter in the first
Right.
place, and so
Correct.
you've got the yummy part once you clarify it. So that's why chefs cook with clarified butter.
Yes, so yeah, it's just so much easier. And you can clarify butter at different stages. You can make it a little darker, a little lighter. You know, the darker you get, the more flavor, the more nutty flavor you become. So it's really, I love
that.
to cook with clarified butter.
Do you make a lot in advance and just keep a batch of clarified butter?
I
You
do always, yeah. I make, probably I buy 5 pounds of butter
That's
and I
what
clarify
makes
it. And once you clarified it, you can leave it in your cupboard. It will not spoil. It's just like oil.
What? You don't have to refrigerate your butter? No!
No, that's the way to go.
So you keep it in your cupboard for how long?
I till after 6 months, a year.
You keep butter in your cupboard. Don't tell your parents.
Well, now if you live in a really hot climate, maybe I would suggest you put it in the refrigerator because it'll melt on you.
So you can keep, that's great. So you can actually keep it in your cupboard for a really long time and just have it ready whenever you want a really rich.
Yeah, right. So
Rich fat,
yeah, and I
instead of
say
a watered down butter from the
change,
grocery.
yeah, and you also can change the the flavors of the clarified butter by leaving it. But you gotta be really super careful when you clarify butter because from being done to overdone and burned goes within seconds.
Yeah, and that's the worst, right? You never want to.
So okay, we have the butter melted. It's fairly hot, and I'm gonna add the leeks to this.
All right, let's see what that looks like. Oh wow. You know how when you have onions in butter and they're getting warmed up and you start to smell all those amazing aromas?
I love this smell.
That's what's going to be happening right now as these leeks start to soften and absorb all that delicious fat.
So we'll saute those a little bit, yes.
This is going to be great. I'm so excited about this soup. One of the great things about this soup is that you can use it as a base for so many different things. What are the different ways that people use this base soup?
I make the soup, finish it off, and I tasted it and said, oh, it's wonderful. But I want to change the flavor. So I go ahead and added a little curry paste to it. Changed complete. You can't even tell what it is anymore.
Oh.
It tastes like, curry soup. And you don't really know
Color.
what against what. So when you have leftovers, the next day I said, I don't want to really taste the soup. I'm just going to change the flavor. Or I would like to make it more hearty. I add some frankfurters. So cut up some frankfurters, add the frankfurter.
Oh, that sounds
maybe
great.
add some croutons to it, which you probably have in your cupboard when you made a Caesar salad, and just add
That would be great. Can you imagine the crunch of a crouton and this yummy soup of potatoes and leeks? That just sounds so great. That texture, right? Texture is so important.
Yeah, and of course you have more substance. It's almost like having a dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is just our appetizer. This is the beginning of our meal. Next, we're going to be making a really yummy, it's a steak, basically, that we're going to be cooking up next.
Yeah,
I'm excited to...
it will be a ribeye steak. I'm going to pound it out a little bit so it cooks a little quicker, and at home we do the same thing, a ribeye steak, and then I finish halfway through, take it out, and then add the onions to it, and on the side I will make a little crispy onions. I will dip it in a little flour and make a little crispy, and then I put those on top. And just, just to crunch it for the looks of it.
That sounds so good. So, Bernie, you were the chef at Pebble Beach.
Yeah, I was there for 3 years, 80, 81, and 83.
So who was
81,
who was
82.
playing golf back then?
Well, I don't know. I did. So I was in charge over the golf. We had 2 tournaments. one U.S. Open, I was in charge over it, but of course we had a lot of employees there. And we did the U.S. Open, and there was about 36,000 people in that,
Wow.
that time within two-week time frame. So it was most logistic problems, really making sure I was in charge to make sure we had everything lined up, all the foods, and the sous chefs were in charge of making the food, preparing the food. But I was in charge with the purchasing agents to make sure we have all the ingredients.
Yeah, no, that's important, right? You want to have all
So
the
now we can
ingredients
add
for cooking.
we adding the potatoes to it. We have a wonderful aroma already, wonderful flavor.
Smells so good. I wish you
yeah.
guys were here so you could smell all these aromas. But if you make it at home, you're going to get the same experience.
Yeah, don't
Those
turn on
meats
your
are
exhaust
melting.
fan. Let it smell for a little bit, and then you turn it on.
Wow. Yeah, that's remarkable. It is so aromatic. So good. So, did you really cook for a U.S. president?
I cooked for President Ford for one night. He kind of he rented a house in Carmel, and I was available, and I cooked that dinner for them. So I met him personally, and that
so
was a
cool.
really kind of a wonderful experience for me.
What does a U.S. president eat for dinner?
You know, this has been so long ago, but I think I had we made some petroli sole, as I remember. I don't know the rest of it, but I remember because petroli sole is the thing that grows, you know, is very famous in the Monterey Bay area. So
Yeah.
that's what I made.
Oh, wow.
So now we have we sawed it off. We got the flavor. We got the flavor. We added you can use chicken stock for this. Now, if you are a vegetarian, you can use chicken stock, or you can use vegetable stock. You can use chicken stock. You can use beef stock. Same result. So you make it a soup. But if you're a vegetarian, you just use a plain old vegetable stock, and you add it, whatever seasoning you can, whatever herbs and seasoning. I like those things, especially, you add a little bit of a salt to it to make it palatable, and everybody has more or less, but put enough in it so you know it's in it. We add some pepper to it. It's very important that actually you put enough in it that you know that it's pepper in it, otherwise it's just a waste of time.
That is a lot more pepper than you would have thought to add at home. That is a nice amount of pepper, but that's what's going to give it the flavor.
That was what give it the flavor. So now we cook that down. So we bring it to a boil, and we'd like to not have to evaporate all the liquid. So we added a lid to it. We put a lid to it, and I would say we'll need to simmer it for about 10 minutes. And I turn it down to a little bit. I had it on high. I'm going to turn it down to about medium.
So good.
And then, so basically, we let the vegetables and the potatoes soften up. And once they're all softened up, we can use a masher. You can use a bear mixer, whatever most people have one at home. Just to make it fine. You can leave it coarse as well. You don't have to necessarily mash it. You can just leave it kind of a hearty soup.
Okay.
That works as well.
And so which way are we going to make it today?
So I'm going to try to just mash it with a masher by hand, and I think that will be it. I will add the herbs and a little cream towards the end. If you put them in too soon, the herbs kind of get lost. You put them in there, the flavor stays in the soup.
So
and I add cream to it. And then it depends how thick you would like it, or how you can add a little more cream. You can add a little more chicken stock or rubber stock you prefer to make it more liquid. I like it kind of, creamy, so that's why we call it a liquid cream soup. So
that's what I love. I mean, creamy soups are my favorite, so I'm excited to have a creamy soup.
So anyways, that's I think that's pretty fun dish. Very simple. From start to finish, it's less than 30 minutes, basically, and you have a wonderful soup and a hearty soup that you can cook the next day if you like whatever's left over.
Now, is there a German word for this?
Kartoffellauchsuppe.
Oh, I cannot pronounce that, but
yeah, that's not it. There you go. Well, the
you don't need to pronounce it to eat it.
The kartoffel is the potato, and the lauch is the leek. So,
okay. That, when you break it down, it makes it so much easier to understand.
Words are fairly close. We just pronounce it so different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I grew up in the rural area of Austria, so I grew up in Vorarlberg, right on the Swiss border. So we do actually speak a horrible dialect.
So where you grew up, you were in the Alps, right?
Yeah, right
in
in
the
back in the
mountains
middle
of
of the Alps,
Austria. And were you near anything? Like, were you on a...
Well, I grew up halfway between Innsbruck and Zurich.
So between two big cities.
Yes.
But you were kind of in farmland, right? Your grandparents
It's all,
had a
you know,
farm?
pretty much farmland. I grew up, when I was growing up, my grandparents had a dairy farm.
How cool.
And as a kid, I spent a lot of time there, and my grandma taught me a lot of cooking. I always was interested in cooking. So my grandma was fantastic. I never liked my mom's cooking. I was always...
You didn't hear it at home?
I, on the way from home, from school, I stopped at my grandma's to make sure.
My mom didn't like to cook either.
So, but yeah, she
Yeah,
did.
it was always my grandmother. But your father
My
inspired
dad
you
loved
too,
to
right? Your
cook.
father was the cook in the
was
family.
the cook in the house. My father was gone Monday to Friday, but man, on Saturday, Sunday, I always enjoyed because he cooked and it was always good.
You were telling me an amazing story. I mean, I wish I had a life like this growing up. Your dad would come home from a long day of work and you would start making croissants?
Yeah, he always told,
That's just
yeah,
amazing.
that's just how he made. He made the croissant, get them ready, put them down in the basement so they wouldn't rise too much. And in the morning, I know he'd get up early in the morning, 6 o'clock, and I could smell it.
Oh my God, I love your dad.
Baking, so that was always him. He also made zopf, as we call it. We call it mahala. It's a braided kind of a sweet on the sweet side bread, and I just always loved that.
So Austria has the same kind of bread that in the Jewish world we call challah, but you call it
Zopf.
zopf.
A zopf would be braided, like when somebody has braided hair, we call it a zopf.
Zopf, oh, like
Yeah.
zopf means braid in German.
Yeah. Yes.
So interesting how culture really takes its meaning from food.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So let's check on our leeks,
Yes.
see how soft they become.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Oh, it smells so
that
good
is the-
in here. I wish you guys could smell it.
So, as I said, it takes at least 10 minutes, so we're probably in about 5 or maybe 4 minutes.
Wow, I really hope you guys make this at home because it smells so good. And if nothing else, if your kitchen can smell this good at home, it's going to be amazing. We're going to take a few minute break and we're going to be right back. And where are we now? So what's happening with the soup?
So we are ready to add the herbs and the cream, and to soften it up with our grater. We can add a little bit of more salt or a little more pepper. We're going to do some tasting, and the soup is basically done.
The tasting is my favorite part.
All right, so I will be adding.
Okay, let's try that.
I'll be adding the herbs to it, and I'll be adding the cream to it.
This looks amazing. Oh.
I use heavy cream. I prefer as heavy as you can get it. 42% in the restaurant business, what we use usually, but you get what you get in a store usually. But 36% is good enough.
It smells amazing.
But I like the heavy cream and the sweet cream. And here is our soup.
This looks fabulous. I can't wait to try this amazing soup. And it's perfect. It's a hot soup today. It's cold outside. And it's gonna be so yummy. Now you put beef stock in this soup, right?
I would put beef stock in this. As I said earlier, you can use vegetable stock, you can use chicken stock. It depends what your favorite, what you have at home, and make it simple.
Everyone has a favorite, right?
Yes.
My favorite's beef stock. I really like beef stock. Chicken stock's good, especially when you're sick. But beef stock for me has the most flavor, so I'm excited. This is gonna be something with potatoes and a version of onion and beef stock. That to me is the perfect combination of flavors and textures.
So basically soup would be done by now. It's ready to serve.
Let's try it.
It's very simple.
Let's try
I'm gonna do, I kind of make it look a little presentable. I add the soup to the plate, and I add a little bit of glaze to it.
Wow. Oh, that looks so good. I wish you could smell this at home. You're gonna have to make it. It's the only way. Or get your friends to make it. I always have my friends learn how to cook something so that they cook for me. I recommend that.
I have a little bit of balsamic glaze, which I add to it. And you can use.
Oh, okay. So then now you're adding something. So that's a completely different color.
So I
the
wanted
soup.
to add a little bit of color for it.
Oh,
so,
wow.
and especially as presentation, when your guests come, they look and see, wow, this looks so impressive. You did such a wonderful job. And here we go.
Wow, that
There is your
contrast
soup.
of color, that texture, all of it looks amazing. I can't wait to try it.
There is your potato leek soup, Kartoffellauksuppe.
Enjoy making this
Yes,
at home
yeah,
if you
enjoy
give it a
it.
try.
It is very
Let
simple.
us know how it went. We'll let you know how to reach out to us on social media. And we look forward to hearing what your experience is making a potato leek soup. Welcome back, everyone. We are about to start the dessert next. Is that right?
We are making the apple strudel right now. Yes, it will take a little longer than the main course because I need to bake it, and the baking takes about 35 minutes. So we start that in between.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
All right, well, I got this. So we're gonna make a half a sheet pan of puff pastry. I'm using 2 apples. These are probably more than I actually need. I have some breadcrumbs. I have some chopped walnuts, and then I have some powdered sugar. And I will use this for the ingredient. I use the breadcrumbs to soak up the moisture from the apples. So I will prep the apples first. I tuck each end off a little bit. I will take the core.
That is a nice toy to have at home. I love having an apple core.
Let's end with this.
Comes right out. So you're using a serrated knife. Most chef knives that a lot of us use are actually smooth, but this one actually has some edges.
But
Is that on purpose?
absolutely, I like a serrated knife. For one, it keeps an edge forever, pretty much. You don't have to go keep sharpening it. I'm used to it. I have done it a lot. You cut it. You can cut a bread with it. You can cut about anything without any hesitation.
Huh.
French knives, when you have something that's crusty and you try to get through, all you do is break through the crust, and you're not getting cut. So I like this French serrated edge knife. Use it for many, many years.
Yeah, my mom used to learn to use a serrated knife too, and I was wondering if she chose that intentionally too, but it does. It's so much easier watching you work with
That
it.
is correct. So I'm going to do 2 ways to make the apples. So I will show you at home how I would make it at home, but for you at home use, I will show you how to just use a grater to make it much simpler. I'm pretty good with a knife, so it's easy for me to just a knife. And faster, all I need to clean is the knife, and you have other things you have to clean more.
We are all about simpler. Anything that's going to make great food faster, simpler, easier, all about that. And this strudel is going to be delicious. I can already tell from all these ingredients, it's going to be so yummy. Look at those slices. How do you get slices like that?
Well, I gauge, obviously I gauge it with my fingers.
Wow. And so that's just 50 years of practice, just like a machine. And it's so important. Knife cuts, the way you cut everything you put in your food is so important if you want your food to have that consistency you see in a restaurant. But everything's cut the same way, the same width, the same shape. Not only does it cook more evenly, but it looks better. Like this is going to look way prettier because of the way you cut those apples.
So most people don't really have the talent with a knife talent as I do.
What?
So I think you should use a grater. It makes it much easier, but of course you have to be careful too. You don't get your knuckles.
All right, so you can use a grater if you want the easy way out, but I bet there are a lot of people out there watching right now who can cut like you do.
I think that would be awesome. This is the way to, the old days before we had all these fancy machineries. That's how we did it.
That's how you did it. You guys, you're going to have to post your photos on social media to show Chef Brody that you can cut like this. But if you're like me and you can't, you're going to use the grater. So this is the easy shortcut, right? This is the fast, easy. And you know what? This actually looks really good because it's still creating, and we'll show you in a second, it's still creating a nice, consistent cut of the apple. Actually, it's almost prettier. I kind of like that a little better. I don't know, I'm torn. This is going to look good too. Most
definitely. Now, if you're in a industrial settings, we do it on this as well. We don't cut it by hand, but if you're in Austria, or in the old days, we used to cut it. That's how I learned it in school, how to do that this way. And so we can combine this together now.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine. This is going to be just a fun looking strudel once it's inside.
It's different, right? So you've got the nice even cuts, and then you've got this is. I think that's really pretty, actually.
Yeah. So.
Okay,
So,
Rick, what's next?
so I will add the walnuts to this. Powdered sugar I will add to this. So the powdered sugar has cornstarch in it, so it has a binding agent. So when the apples started to cook, they will not soak through your puff pastry or your strudel dough. So then I add a touch of nutmeg, which I prefer. I like it. It's a very popular way to make, and then I add a little cinnamon powder, and then again at home you can, if you like a lot of cinnamon, you add a little bit more to it, and if you're less, so you can just adjust it the way you like it.
I would add a lot.
And then I also add my
oh, raisins are going to give it the best texture.
So that will add. And now you can add more raisins. You can add more raisins. You can less. You can use cranberries if you like. If you don't want to do it traditionally, I like also golden raisins in it.
Yeah.
So we'll mix this up.
The dark raisins, though, give it that contrast. That are, it's really going to stand out and look good.
So I would like to let it sit for at least 15 minutes before I add it into the puff pastry. So we put it on the side a little bit. I get the puff pastry out, and then I will roll it out and mix it together, and off in the oven it goes.
Welcome back. So during the break, I took a bite of the apple, and it was so good with the nuts crushed all over it. This texture in this strudel is going to be amazing. So what are we doing now?
So the next thing is we're gonna make a little blueberry poulet or a little blueberry sauce. And so I put a little butter in the pan, and I will add those blueberries to the pan. And while we rolling out our dough, this can just sit there and slowly simmer.
These are beautiful blueberries. There's some really big ones in there. Wow. Those are going to be so juicy, so yummy.
And just so we'll make a nice, so they will have a beautiful color. They get that kind of this beautiful purple color. So we're going to let that sit there. And now we're going to start with the puff pastry.
So what is puff pastry?
So it's a layered, laminated dough. So a lot of layers. So it's pretty simple basics. Water, flour. Some people use a little bit of lemon juice. Some people use a little bit of vinegar to speed up for the gluten to open up. And basically, every country has a little different way to make puff pastries. Add different things to it. Some people use eggs for it as well.
So let's go back to all the words you threw out there. Laminated means what?
Laminated means that you fold the dough. The laminated means that you have several layers of pastries on top of each other, several layers of dough on top of each other, and then roll it out, and then fold it again, and then that gives you a lamination. And that's how this, and then this one, we do puff pastry that has made with butter. So when you bake it in very hot heat, the butter inside the oils will actually expand, and that's how the dough will be flaky.
So is this kind of like a croissant?
Similarity, yes.
So it's the same idea. You've got dough, butter, and then when you heat it, the butter bubbles and creates air, so you get all those layers
that
like
is
a
correct.
croissant. That's what we're trying to get to.
That's what we're trying to do, yes.
So is it true, I heard this story about in Austria, if you were making strudel in Austria, and you were the most talented strudel maker ever, that you could see a newspaper through your strudel dough? That's how thin you have to get it? Is that real?
Well, it's a little extreme, but yes, see, you'll be able to read some fairly big print through. That's how thin it should be. When I was going to school, we all were proud ourselves to be able to do that. I haven't been able to produce it in years. So
it looks so hard, it's so thick. How do you get it that thin?
Yeah.
But you were able to do it at one point. You could actually get it thin enough that you could read.
I did, yeah. We had to. This is the only way you would graduate out of school. Be able to do that. The teacher would give you the grade unless you be able to do that. So
Now, you went to school in Europe, right?
Yes.
So you studied, how many years were you studying how to cook?
so I've been to a culinary school that teaches you also how to be a waiter, how to take care of a restaurant, how to manage your finances. So I went to a 5 year culinary school
years.
in Salzburg. Yes,
So you spent a lot of time perfecting your craft. It
I
wasn't-
did. Yes.
No, I own a culinary school where we do it in 10 weeks, and that's great for people like me who are very busy. But in Europe, people take it very seriously. So you spent 5 years.
Yeah, I
learning
did
how
this
to-
as a profession. I wanted to be a chef, and so being a chef, you gotta be able to cook meats, make pastries, make breads, be able to do your bookkeeping, be able to set a table, be able to teach your waiter how to set the table and how to wait on tables. So this is the whole school. That's why it takes 5 years.
Yeah,
You can do this course in 3 years, but you're not getting that degree.
right.
So
It's
what-
a totally different system.
Right, very different system. So,
It's amazing. And so show us how you would.
so I always, when you see that the puff pastry, if you just do one way, it always kind of goes. It's going to be inside. It's going to have a little indentation here.
I can
This
see it,
way,
okay.
you roll it outside. See how it all leveled out, and if you
You want to keep it an even rectangle.
you want a rectangle,
You want your
yeah.
lines to stay as lines and not be squiggly.
And so there you make it. So I'm gonna do this in a simple way that you can make it at home. There is a lot more complicated way to make strudel, and so if there is any experts out there, say, oh, this is not how it's done. Well, I'm just showing you how you can do it at home and be proud that they have a great strudel.
Because that's what it's about, the fast and easy way.
Yes.
You could go to school for 5 years. You could still do it. Your school is still around, right? You could go to school for 5 years.
Yes.
But not everyone has 5 years. And we are so appreciative that you did so that we can learn from your experience. Because this is what,
So I brush
I get
the
so
ends.
lit up by this.
I brush the ends with egg wash ahead of time. So.
Okay.
And then I will add the apples in the center.
Now, is this a yolk and the egg
That
white?
is both egg
This
yolk,
is
egg white, and a little bit of water, a splash
Okay.
of water in it.
Oh, you add water to
Yes,
your egg
always.
white. Why?
So this way you it emulsifies better, and you'll have it will actually expand. The egg will expand.
Okay, so we got another word. What do you mean by emulsify?
Emulsify so that is the molecules become one.
So they
Bind.
they bind. So kind of okay. So they're coming together. The molecules of the egg wash are going to have a better consistency almost because
is
they're
correct.
emulsified. Okay, we like that. This looks amazing. This looks so good, and the blueberries are just soaking in butter right now. Just
So we
taking it all
fold
in.
the ends first, so when you roll it, it doesn't fall on the outside. So you fold it up
Okay.
one way, fold it up to this different way, and there you go. You fold it over.
Wow.
There is your strudel.
You know, this actually wasn't that hard to make.
It is pretty simple. So I made it simple. A lot of other ways you can do it is you roll it, you spread out the apples and roll it inside, so you have the puff pastry inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this makes it much easier and much easier to cook.
This is definitely the kind of thing you could do at home as your friends are coming over, and you could almost get it done. I mean, what did it take us? Not that long, maybe 20 minutes.
You know,
right?
not even that. Yeah, it just takes. So I do put a little flour on the sheet pan. You also can use parchment paper. Put parchment paper down, and then you add your strudel.
Wow.
And now we egg wash it,
Okay.
and in oven it goes.
So you're going to egg wash it again, and why is that?
The egg wash will make crisp it up, and it will look really pretty.
Oh.
And I also
This is gonna be nice. These are the little touches, right, that you can add at home to really impress your friends and family. Look at that. So when you put this in the oven, the egg wash is going to help it. Is it going to be shiny?
Oh, you'll be beautiful, shiny, golden brown.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, that's an important step.
So we had turned the oven on at 375, and we're gonna just put it in the oven for 375, and we'll let it sit there for 35 minutes. We'll check it, and we might need it a little more or a little less, whatever. If we check it in 35 minutes, and the strudel should be ready.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. So now we are going to make an Austrian pasta.
We're gonna make spätzle.
Spätzle. Oh wait. No. Spätzle.
It's called spätzle. We need to add the E to it, so
Spätzle?
it's spätzle.
But we have spätzle all the time.
Yes, but in America they say spätzle because they got a speech impediment.
Oh!
So
we gotta add an A at the
Yes,
end.
you gotta go to
Spätzle.
Yes.
Spätzle, okay.
Where
Am I saying it right? Spätzle?
Spätzle. Spätzle.
Spätzle.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Now, where I grew up,
Yeah.
we call it knüppel.
Oh,
And you
knüppel.
will
Okay,
see,
I can say that better.
You will see why we call it knüppel
Okay.
after we finish cooking it.
All right,
Okay,
let's
first
get
thing,
to it.
we use the flour. So basically, half a pound of flour to 2 eggs. That's a basic recipe, very simple. And we add a little salt to it. You can add a little nutmeg if you like. Very important is the adding of the water. You gotta have the dough develop properly. When the dough is too hard, it will not run through your sieve. The dough is too runny, it runs through the sieve, and it will be just a mess because they'll stick all together. So it's very important that you get the right elasticity of the dough. So we'll start. I'll sift the flour just because a lot of times you buy flour, it's set in your cupboard, and it got a little too humid, and you have all kinds of lumps in it. Like we have one here, there's a lump in it. So we just make sure it's lump free. This way it obviously cooks much better. It bakes much better, so we can make the spätzle nice and even form. See how we had this was really lumpy. So now we got rid of them.
These are the kind of steps that I always used to skip. When I first started baking, I would always skip any step that I didn't think I needed to do. And then, when things didn't turn out right, I had to go back and look at, what did I do wrong?
So we
And
added
sifting
this.
flour was definitely one of those.
So we start adding the 1 egg at a time. Add those first. And let it get it to a little bit of dough. We add a little bit of salt. As I mentioned earlier, I like a little salt. And now comes the trick, making sure that you get the right amount of water.
Now you can do this by hand, right? If you don't have a KitchenAid, you can mix the dough by hand.
You can mix the dough by hand. It's not really in a mixing bowl. Yes, you can do that. You could probably do it with a hand mixer as well.
Okay. I think sometimes it's faster to just do stuff by hand than to pull out a big machine, have to clean a big machine.
But you won't be able
to do that.
So you won't be able to get the amount of oxygen or air into your mixer or the dough by hand. So that using a hand mixer or one of those KitchenAids will help a lot, and the product comes out much definitely better.
When you add that air using a machine, what does that air bring?
So that brings the lightness to the dough, so that when the spätzle, they're not solid, they're kind of a little fluffy.
Oh, okay.
Because
so
you have the air in it.
A
Yes.
fluffier
Yes.
noodle using a machine. Okay.
And
that
also
would be a reason to clean a machine.
Yeah, in my past, I had a restaurant called the Vienna Bistro in Salt Lake City. I added colored powder. I used beet powder, made the color pink. I used the spinach powder and changed the color to a little green, like they do when you with pasta. They have different color pasta. I did the same thing and made my spätzle, and it came out just beautiful. People always wondered, how did you do it? It's a very simple thing. Just add a little powder to it.
That's fun. We love teaching colored pasta at Park City Culinary Institute. We've got green, we've got red. Colored pastas are fun.
So I start off from a slow speed, I add up the speed to it to, you know, like at a 4, and then let it wait for, you know, 2-3 minutes, and that will just make the product much fluffier. We're almost there. So now at home, if you realize, oh, I put too much water in it, just add a little flour, it'll make it all good. So it's pretty simple. We'll stop it and I'll double check it if this is to my liking. Perfect. See how elastic the dough is?
So what are you looking for?
The elasticity, so that it has a little, it sticks a little bit, but it doesn't run off your pedal.
Okay.
All right.
You can see that, right?
This is a perfect. See how elastic it is. See.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So this is it.
All right, we can do this, right? We can do this. So Frody, you've cooked for a lot of famous people.
In my past, I did, yes.
So you cooked for a president. Who's someone else famous that you cooked for?
I cooked for the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama?
I did.
How did you get to cook for the Dalai Lama? He wasn't playing golf at Pebble Beach, was he?
He was not. That was in Salt Lake City on a convention. He stayed at the governor's mansion. I was in charge over to cook for the entourage. And once the
entourage, like you're cooking for all the people.
For all the people who came along with, and once the Dalai Lama saw the food I cooked, he said, "I want to eat his food too." So he came down to the kitchen and just looked around and asked me a bunch of questions, and whatever he did his thing, and that was it. I cooked for 4 days.
He sought you out. So you're cooking for the public. The Dalai Lama's got his own kitchen? He's eating somewhere else?
He had brought in a chef from Toronto to cook for him. Yes.
He flew in a chef from a different country.
Right.
And then he sees you're cooking, ditches the chef from Canada,
Right.
and says, I want you to feed me. And you end up cooking for the Dalai Lama for 4 days.
That's right.
What does the Dalai Lama eat?
Oh, you know, very spicy food. Lots of vegetables, but he did eat some fish. I made some shrimp dish, but a lot of vegetables, but very, very spicy. I just cannot believe it. I could even, you know, dream about eating stuff like this. So,
That's
okay,
you're Austrian. You don't like spice.
No, well, I like spicy food, but not so that I don't understand or don't taste what, you know, I can't figure out what it is.
You like it natural.
So, right on.
The natural flavors of the food to come out.
So, this is the famous spätzle stick that come in different shapes and forms. This is just, you can buy at the store. It has, it's called the sled. So it has the hole on the bottom, and you move the sled back and forth, and this way the dough will fall into the boiling water. I salted the water so that the spätzle already has some flavor. I like to add the salt before, not after we cook food.
We have to remember it's spätzle.
Spätzle. So I'm gonna do this. Add this to the.
I might still call it spätzle.
All right. So there is the first batch. We can do this under twice. And so here we go. We move that sled back and forth really slow, and the dough drops into the water, and the form of it looks like a knöpfle, like a button rather. That's why at home where I grew up we call it knöpfle.
So knöpfle is the German word for button.
The Austrian word.
The Austrian word. Mm.
So every region,
they speak German.
Every region has their different dialect.
And so in Germany, do they not call them the same word? What's the German word for button?
Knopf.
And what's the Austrian word for button?
Knopf.
If you guys can hear the difference between that, you're going to be speaking German fluently or Austrian fluently in a very short time. They really look like buttons. I don't know if you can see this at home, but they have this look of many buttons. Now, you were saying you wanted a tall pot, right, Frody? You wanted a tall pot?
Yes. So when you cook the spätzle, when it drops out of your spätzle maker, it drops in the water. The longer it travels down to the bottom, the faster it will cook. So it will not stick on the bottom and they stick together. As you can look, they all float to the top, they're done.
Wow, and this is another really fast dish. I mean, if you think about different pastas you could make, like when you make the Italian pasta and you buy the rolling machine and you roll it and you roll it and you roll it and then you cut it. I mean, that's a process. That takes a long time. But this is fast and easy.
And
Went straight
delicious.
from making the dough to grating it using the sled, and it came through the water very quickly, cooked because it had that nice long drop because you have a tall pot, and it's done. Fast and easy stuff. These are so many great tips for entertaining at home. Now, how often, I mean, I'm at your house almost 3 nights a week, but how many nights a week would you say you're entertaining?
5.
5. So pretty much every night of the week, now that you're retired, you invite your friends over.
Yes, my friends love to come over to my house. I cook, they bring the wine and do the dishes.
It's a pretty good trade. It's a pretty good trade. And so, you know, what are things that, you entertain so much. What are things that you've learned entertaining for your friends that someone watching our show today may not know yet? What can we teach them from your experience?
So the biggest part what I do is I make all the mise en place, all the preparation for what I'm going to do is all ready, and I usually put them on a baking pan like I put the strudel on. Everything is ready to go, so when they show up, I can start cooking and it will take no time. I cook a la carte or I like a la minute most of the times. Just that's how I like to cook. I don't like put this stuff in the oven unless I'm making ossobuco. You know, I butcher a lot of elk, I butcher a lot of animals at my house. I have a butcher shop set up, and so I always get 1/3 for the price to do in the butchering. I take 1/3 of there.
So, okay, so there's a lot to break down here. First, we just learned a couple good French words. Now, if you ever want to impress your friends when you're cooking at home, mise en place is a French expression, and mise en place means
Preparation to get the food you're going to be cooking. It's everybody in the world uses the word mise en place. So that means the preparation for
your preparation for your food, putting it in place,
yes,
and getting it ready.
Yes.
And then, what does a la minute mean? I mean, I hear the word minute, but
so a la minute really is that you cook the food to order. You're not making the food ahead of time. You prep the food, but you're not cooking it.
So
you make the mise en place and then you cook it a la minute.
And so when you're entertaining at home, if you do all the prep and you get everything ready, you can still do a little bit of cooking as your friends arrive, a la minute, and it's fresh, but you're not losing time with your friends.
That's correct. I have a 6-top burner, I have a griddle, I have 2 convection ovens, a bread warmer. So it's easy to, making food for, 6 or 8 people. Most of the time, I like to keep it at 6. But Thanksgiving comes around, I'm going to have 10 people at my house. And my friends shot the turkey.
Okay, so living in Utah is a little bit different.
Yes.
So Frody has a friend who did what?
He lives on the edge of the forest, and the turkeys came right across by his porch, and we nailed 2 of them.
So you're standing outside on your porch when you live in Utah. This is a true story. And you see a wild turkey. I'm from New York City, so I love these stories. You see a wild turkey cross in front of your house, and you just happen to have a gun there, and I got Thanksgiving dinner, Frody.
You got to have a permit, but he had a permit, so he didn't just go shoot it. He had a permit to shoot 3 animals, so he got 2, and 2 was enough for the party.
That's great. That's great. This is going to be a great Thanksgiving.
The time has come to take out the strudel out of the oven. Let's see how beautiful it looks.
Now, how do you know when it's ready to take out?
So, I said 35 minutes. That was about 35 minutes. And also, once it becomes so golden, beautiful color, it's ready cooked. So there is your strudel. We're going to let it rest for a little bit, and then we're going to finish it off on a plate, make it look nice. So that's why we had the blueberries as well.
So this is the egg wash that created that beautiful
That is what the egg
crust.
wash did. So
Wow.
other ways to look, before we put it in the oven, we can make a little grooves in it, cut the dough through, and that also will kind of create a little different look.
Wow. Yeah, that would be fun too. This looks beautiful. I'm excited to try it. So, can I taste your pasta?
Yes.
Are you going to taste it too?
Here is a little spoon.
Oh, I use my hands.
That's okay.
That was very American.
Perfect. Nice
It's really
consistency.
good.
Beautiful consistency. and nothing sticks together. Very important.
That's true. Yeah, it actually has a much better consistency than whenever I try to make fresh, you know, the Italian style of pasta. It's always kind of sticky and sticks together. This doesn't have that.
Yes.
That's great. Okay.
Just so the dough, that means the dough was done properly. So I said you adjust it, you have to adjust it, you got to make sure. And you know, if the dough is not elastic enough, you ought to make sure either add water or add some more flour to make it consistent.
So you lift up some of the
Yeah,
dough
see how
using a
elastic
tool,
it is. Yes.
and then you either add water or flour depending on how elastic it is.
That
Get
is
it to
correct.
that right consistency.
Yes.
Okay, we can do that, right? We can do that. All right, what's next?
So next will be the roast or the ribeye with the onion sauce. We're gonna start with the ribeye. I'm gonna pound the ribeye out a little bit so it cooks a little faster. At home, you can just buy a smaller ribeye thinner. If you go to the butcher shop, you ask him just for a smaller cut. So this is a little thick. This is, you know, for my taste, it'd be enough for 2 people. So we could have had this cut in half, basically, but it's really hard to cut now in half once it's cut that thin. So I'm gonna go and pound it out a little bit, and then I'm gonna drench it in seasoned flour, and then I will cook it out to about 2/3 of it finished, and then I will add this onions to it, and I will show you how we do that. That will be our next step. But first, we're gonna cook the steak.
Okay, so the seasoned flour has what? Salt and pepper in the flour?
I just use salt and pepper. Yes.
Salt and pepper.
I think that's the best way to cook things.
Yep.
There is a little oil, a little fat piece there. I will cut that off.
Okay.
Because we don't need that much. Okay.
So when you're removing the fat, you just remove the big chunks of fat, but you're still leaving a little bit, like you can see fat, and that's okay.
Yeah, that little fat you can see here, that fat will only help you also cook it. That will be the oil for this. So
that's going to give it that this flavor. You know, we can all try to lose weight. We can all try to cut fat out of our diets.
Yeah, so we add a little bit of
add a little bit more fat with the oil. This is vegetable oil. So why did you pound the meat? I know you like to box, and I know you like to, but did you really?
Well, you know, so there is two different ways, two reasons you pound the meat. For one, you want to have a bigger piece, and you know, you have a bigger plate, looks better. Number two, some of the meats, like this particular meat, you don't need to pound out necessarily for the texture or for the softness. Now, if you buy have a scallop, medium veal scallop, a lot of veals and a lot of top,
those
you
look
like to pound
thin,
yeah, you like to pound them out. So this way you really break down the tissue. This was so soft, but the reason I pounded this out because I wanted to make it bigger, and so it cooks quicker.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason for it.
We're all about the quick and easy. Okay, so if you want to cook your meat quicker, all you do is you pound it thinner, and then you're going to be able to cook it quicker, and it might also make it more tender at the same time.
Absolutely.
So win-win. Okay, we like that. Now, so you have butchered a lot of animals.
I sure did.
How many animals do you think you butchered?
200-300 at least.
By hand, right? Like you literally
pretty much.
will take a pig. I've seen you do this.
So you bring the animal to me. You have to have it killed and gutted, skinned, gutted. I do not, because I have no way to dispose it, and it's a different. USDA would, crack me down on it, so that it's absolutely illegal to do this in your house. So I do. People bring that out. It's already dressed, as they call it. I just butchered 2 lambs before we got to the show here a couple of days ago, and as a payment, I charge them $100 plus a third of.
A third of the animal. So you have people knocking down your door all the time saying, "Hey, Frody, I just went hunting," and again, Utah. So I was just in my backyard and I shot a deer, and they bring it to you, they take the skin off, but then you break down the deer into all the different pieces that people are going to want to cook.
Correct.
And then what? Do you have this big freezer at home?
So I have a big freezer, but most of the time the people come and pick it up the same day. So I have vacuum packing machines. So I break it down to its parts, whatever they want. They want steaks and roasts, whatever they like, or ground. I have big grinders at home. I can ground meat, and so I ask them usually how many pounds you want in the package. you know, and so that's how I do it at home.
Huh.
Yeah, and they just usually come. I don't have to really freeze their stuff. They come and pick it up the same day.
Wow,
Some
that's
customers
amazing.
like to watch. I said, yeah, you just stay here and watch. Some people like to help. You know, I have, you know, I have no op. You know, they can just sit around, watch, and if they hang around, then they'll have to clean up.
It takes a lot of strength to break down an animal. I mean, that's not easy work. You're cutting into like some big pieces of meat, right? And you're doing most of it by hand.
I do, yes.
That's remarkable.
Okay, so here is our ribeye steak.
Look at this. Look at this.
It is just gorgeous. So now we're making the sauce. Sauce is a little more, more complicated, or more steps to it. So we'll, you know, I'd like to make.
What's the Austrian German word for steak?
Steak. We don't, you know, we call steak as well. Austrians don't have really steaks. This is an American thing, so everybody call it a steak as well.
But there's that other word in the dish when the Austrian word for the dish you're making.
Rostbraten. So a
Roast
braten, you know,
braten.
is basically a piece of meat that you cook off this way.
Roast braten. I mean, it sounds like roast beef, right? Roast braten, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Braten is beef, and roast means roasted. Only it's not roast beef. Like roast beef here in the United States is a different.
It could be different braten.
Not a
It could
different
be
animal,
elk.
but a
It could be
different.
a different animal. Yes, braten. It could be a different animal.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
it's just because every animal has the same texture, the same structure. So, whether this is a lamb, or if it's a deer, an elk, a cow, a pig, it's kind of this. They have the same structure. You have the hind legs, you have the front legs, you have the center part. So basically, it's the same. So it's the same. You get a braten, you got out of the rear end of the animal, and you know that's where you make a steamship round. You make the sirloin comes from there. So that's the braten.
So this is a sirloin right
Yeah.
here. All right.
So I'm going to start with the sauce. So I already did the party sauce. So I leave all the ingredient in it. There is flour in it, and then I just cut the onions.
Okay. I love watching this. I own a culinary school, but I can't do this. I also don't teach. But I love watching it. And I went to culinary school. I should know how to do this, but it takes so many years to really just be able to do it that fast, that evenly, that well. Okay, so we're cooking down the onions. And this is for the onion sauce to go with the roast braten.
That is correct.
And what's the, I don't know if I want to say German or Austrian word for onion?
Zwiebel.
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 Zwiebel. Okay. So we're making, okay, it's good you're sitting down, a Zwiebel roast braten. That's the name of this dish in Austria. Zwiebel for onion, roast braten, roast meat, not beef, meat. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a Zwiebel roast braten. It's taken me a week to practice that. I'm almost done. So when you use a higher temperature to cook your onions, they begin to turn brown and caramelize.
They caramelize much quicker. So you know anything this kind of stuff, you need to have a little speed on it.
But you want your onions to be brown, you want your meat to be brown. And as you brown it, I mean, caramel, it almost sounds like it's sugar. And in a sense it is, right? Caramelization.
It's the sugar.
There is sugar. And onions are sweet. You don't think of them as sweet, but they actually add sweetness.
So it depends what kind of onions you get. So you know there is the Walla Walla sweet onions, and there is a you know the white onions are sweeter. Now the yellow onions kind of the least sweetness, and the texture is good. I don't like to cook as much with the yellow onions. The white onions cook faster, they're softer, they cook quicker, but they don't have quite as much texture as the rest other onions would have. But I really like to cook with those. So
white and yellow onions are not the same?
They are not the same. They have a different structure. So the red onion, yellow onion, white onion, those are kind of the most popular. The red onion is pretty sweet, and there is, of course, there is the Walla Walla onions, where the sweet Walla, so Walla Walla. A lot of people know how to cook it, but the most popular onion is the yellow onion to cook with. The white onion is not as popular. I personally like to use the onions because they cook faster and they're softer. Like if you make an onion soup, they break down quicker and they're much better.
So if you want to save time, you're going to use a white onion.
That's correct.
And then they're sweeter too, so it's a win-win. Okay, now we're adding that beef stock.
So we're gonna break down the tissue.
Okay.
By roasting this, we add a little bit of the red wine.
Oh, we gotta add wine.
We add that wine.
There are a lot of non-alcoholic wines out there if you want to add wine but don't want to have liquor. But the liquor does get burnt off, so there really isn't liquor in your dish once you're done cooking it.
There's no alcohol left, absolutely
no alcohol,
not.
It's gone. And so when you add wine, what is that adding? Is it adding any flavor?
Well, yeah, absolutely adds the flavor, adds color, adds the sweetness to it. And it changes completely.
Huh.
And you know, the French, the Austrians, they love to cook with wine. Sometimes they put it in the food.
Exactly, they love to cook with wine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they got a little tipsy while they're doing it.
They'll share their wine with
you know, you see, so all of us, see how we're building a sauce? You know, it evaporates. We like to add more to it. Obviously, I have a little bit of chicken stock, I have a beef stock left, which I saved, and add that to it. And you can use water for that matter. You could use chicken stock, but I definitely do not miss out on the red wine because that's really essential.
Wow, this looks amazing and smells so good in here.
And it really, really will taste really awesome. Let me add a little bit of this.
I can't wait to try the strudel. I can't wait to eat the spätzle. And then this onion sauce is going to be divine. So why are onions such an important part of almost every dish, and especially meat?
Well, the onions, for one, it's a very economical vegetable that grows everywhere, very simple. That's a very simple explanation. Everybody grows onion. Plus, the onion lends you just a lot of umami to it, a lot of flavors into your mouth, and gives a lot of texture to all the food you cook.
So what is umami? I mean, some of you at home might know what it is. I think we're starting to use that word a little bit more in the United States, but it's a Japanese word, right?
So umami is what makes your mouth turn upside down, basically.
It's so good.
It is so good.
It's so good it turns upside down.
Oh, it tastes. So that makes your mouth go mouth-watering. You know, you heard of mouth-watering. So that's what you kind of do.
So so onions have umami. Because I thought that umami came from meat. I thought you needed to have something with a protein to have that, but you don't. Onions actually have umami. So if you're a vegetarian, you could use onions because you're not eating meat to bring that savoriness to your cooking.
That is correct. Yes. So here we have the onion sauce. If you like the onions, onions a little more crispy or a little softer. Now, as I mentioned before, the white onions take longer to break down to be soft, so they will be a little more, has a little more texture. So when you make a triple roast braten, I would suggest you use the white onion, and it goes faster. So
the white one, because the yellow one takes longer.
Yeah, so basically here is your dinner ready. So now, if I would cook at home, I would use a bigger pan. I would maybe make smaller pieces. Like say I have six of my guests, I will have 6 smaller pieces, and then do it the same procedure than I do now, and make a little bit of more sauce, and there is your dinner. So, but I will have everything prepped. The onions will be cooked, and all the stuff will be around. And here is your end product of your sauce.
The onion sauce.
So now, if you think it's too thick, yeah, well, the thickness is nothing to it. We just reduce it.
So, okay, so if you're trying to make this at home and you want to reduce it, how does that work?
Well, you reduce it, you just heat up your pan, bring the heat a little higher, and it evaporates.
So it's getting thicker, right? So you're evaporating all that water out of your beef stock and your wine.
Yeah, so the thickness also comes from the flour I cooked in the triple roast braten, and of course the onions as well. So that's where the thickness. So you don't need to add any thickener to it. This will, if you leave it long enough, it'll just evaporate and it'll be really thick. But I think this is perfect this way.
It looks amazing.
Yes.
So what's next?
So the next thing is I put a little bit too much oil in it, so I'm going to pour it out. We're going to cook some snow peas for the vegetables. They're cooked like in seconds, and then we'll have to with the plate.
I can't be in a kitchen without snacking. Those are so sweet and good. That's gonna be
So
amazing.
what I like too is just a little bit of salt.
So how come when you're cooking the snow peas, you're cooking them in oil, but you put your blueberries in butter?
Yeah, so blueberry is the fruit. You don't mix, in general, you do not mix the fruits with the butter, but you cook with butter, you're making doughs, you're making pasties, butter. So that lends to the naturality of the natural flavor. And I always prefer to cook with unsalted butter because you can always add salt to it, you can't take it out.
Okay.
So I don't like salted butter.
So one of my
Your snow peas are done.
Oh, that was fast.
We're gonna put this on the stove. Turn that down.
This is what?
These are the blueberries
Look,
for our.
another word for blueberry. They're a type of
Fruit.
My goal on this show is to get Brody to say words that roll the R's.
Oh,
That is my goal. That is my number one goal.
Like raspberries.
Raspberries. I wish I could roll my R's like you. So when you take your fruit and you let it
This is hot.
melt into a pot of butter, you get this amazing, you called it a coulis, another French word, right?
A coulis, marmalade. You can, lots of different words for it. So now we added this meat,
Roast braten.
the roast braten back, or the roast braten or the ribeye back into the onion sauce.
Okay.
So now we bring up the onion sauce, we bring that to a,
Do you want it to be high or low?
so we're gonna do it at medium.
Medium, okay.
So now the sauce, the onions will lend the meat the flavor. So that is the steak, the meat will take in the flavor of the sauce. And so that's our goal right now.
Adding all that sweetness from
All
the
that
onions.
sweetness to this.
And what kind of cut of meat was it again?
So this was a ribeye.
ribeye.
But at home you can use you can buy a sirloin steak, which is less expensive. That's the same thing. In Austria they wouldn't use ribeyes because most likely we don't have them. We can't afford to buy them. They're not available.
Oh, okay.
America's the land of beef, so
We get everything
we got
here.
everything here.
And you just became an American citizen.
I did.
How many years have you lived here for?
Over 40 years.
40 years. And Brody changed his name from your original name when you were born,
Rodebert.
another rolled R, to just Brody. He's kind of like Madonna. He doesn't need a last name. It's just Brody.
Yeah, I get asked a lot of times, what's your last name? I said Brody. So it seems like it's drying out a little bit. We're gonna give it a little more moisture. And you can do the same thing at home. And if you don't have any wine, well, it's okay. You can use beef stock, chicken stock, whatever, or even for that matter, a little water. Or you have a bouillon at home, you put that bouillon cube and, you set it up. So.
Do real chefs cook with bouillon? They do, right?
Well, yes, a lot of these small restaurants or, like fast food restaurants, sort of what I call them, they do that because, they don't really have the time and they call talent how to do that. So, basically. So now we're going to dish up your ribeye. The ribeye is
Great.
done.
This is going to be great.
We're going to plate this right here. See
Look at
there.
that. Wow. There's nothing better than onions, right? Like if you walk into a kitchen and onions are cooking, you know that whoever's in that kitchen knows what they're doing. The aromas get you as you walk in the door. And then the sweetness. Like you never think of onions as being sweet, but they add that sweetness. And that sauce looks divine. It's such a rich color. It's got the
Very
red in it
rich.
from the wine.
We can add
And
a
then
little.
you've got all that caramelized meat too, which also kind of melts into the sauce. So as your meat turns brown, those brown bits that are on the bottom of your pot or in your meat, those brown bits darken your sauces too, and it's just a divine, rich color.
So
And
now
these
we
are
plate
beautiful.
up. We're going to do the plating.
Look at that. So Frody's fanning the snap peas one by one. Who's gonna get to eat this?
Whoever is hungry these days.
Okay, did you notice the flip? They're all facing the same direction. It's all about consistency and repetition when you're decorating and when you're looking at the elements of your plate. Look at that.
Okay.
So sauces are something that I think a lot of home cooks don't really look to add to their food, but restaurant chefs are always very focused on the sauce. Now, why are restaurant chefs so focused on the sauce? Because maybe we could then understand at home why sauce is important. I mean, we put sauce on pasta, right? We'll get a spaghetti sauce, we'll add a sauce like that. But when you're cooking meat or chicken, it's not something that most home cooks think about, right? We're not going to make a sauce. Why do professional restaurant chefs always add a sauce to their food?
Well, a sauce really is the finishing touches of any meal. Whether you make a cold sauce, hot sauce, you make a hollandaise, you make a béarnaise, you make any type of sauces for meats. And I like to deglaze. I like to cook and make deglaze. Personally, I'm all at home. I make. I have glace de viande, which is a 6-day process, and just from bone reduction. And I use this as the helper for all the flavors to finish off a nice sauce. We could have made this sauce a little different color. We could have had some cream to it, and it would have been a different color sauce and for the blending the plate. But basically, this is your dish. Through roast braten, a la Frody.
So next up, we are going to slice into that amazing apple strudel. And I can't wait. I can't wait. See you then.
Now we're ready for it. Yes, it is time for that dessert.
Let's hit it.
Okay, let's see. It had a little rest, so we took it out of the oven a little earlier, so it rested a little bit. And as you can see, it is beautiful golden brown. Seems like we have the apple kind of got a little stuck, but this is good.
This is the kind of dessert I could get into. Like, it was fast, but it's impressive. It was easy, but it's going to be good. There's a lot more skill to this than, making a cake out of a box. This is something different and special.
Super simple, it is very healthy, very little, the calorie-wise is so much better.
And you can buy puff pastry at the store. Usually they sell it at the grocery. It's in the freezer, and you just let it kind of get to room temperature so that you can unroll it and start working with it.
Absolutely. So I made the blueberries. I had warmed those up. So I put the bottom of the plate. We put a little sauce. Also vanilla sauce is very popular with the apple strudel. But to make vanilla sauce is a little more complicated. And let's see, this is a better piece here.
By the way, if you want to learn how to make fun things like this, my culinary school is in Salt Lake City, but we also have online courses. And so you could watch how to make all these amazing desserts at home and then recreate them. Send in your work and a chef will give you feedback and also be available to answer your questions while you're cooking the bake. Look at that. It's called Park City Culinary Institute, and our website is parkcityculinaryinstitute.com. It's a fun place. It's a lot of fun.
So there is your
Look at that!
apple strudel.
That's beautiful. Do we get to eat it now?
Absolutely.
All right,
everybody gets a taste of it.
We're going to eat
I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you for joining us. We had a fun time. Hopefully you did too. And we look forward to seeing you soon.